Good people of Ann Arbor, Michigan, you got a lot of expectations for your football team, and you should. You should, because you beat Ohio State 2 years in a row. You got 2 Big Ten title rings the last 2 years to show for it, and now you're like, okay, let's go get the big one. Let's go get ourselves a national championship. That's what you're thinking right now, and I think that's totally fair. But why is this situation different than maybe previous years? There's a couple of facets to it, and I think we start with what you have on the field. Because Michigan last year was bully ball, baby. It was beautiful. It was glorious. For the opposition, it was joyless. Like, it was so fun to watch, and it was, we're going to hand the ball to Blake Corum, we're going to hand the ball to Donovan Edwards, and we're going to run the football at you. Here we come. Try and stop it. You can't. Like, that was how Michigan got down last year. But you got J.J. McCarthy going into his second year. And there's been a lot made of Michigan being balanced. Like, we've talked about it on this show. I think there needs to be a little bit more balance. But I don't know that you need to be balanced against, insert whatever Big Ten team here that's not named Penn State and not named Ohio State. Like, Michigan's going to roll out there and have the superior offensive line, superior backfield, and kind of just going to have their way for the majority of the season, is my estimation. But the reason it'll be different, the only thing that will be different, that's worth noting, it's subtle, but there's more flexibility to be balanced offensively. And I think that's the best way to say it when we talk about Michigan, because you're not asking Michigan to change their identity. Like, I'm not asking Shaquille O'Neal to go shoot three. Shaquille O'Neal's a problem in the paint. I'm letting him post up, be more physical, and get after it. Same thing with Michigan. You got 2 of the best backs in the country, arguably the best backfield in the country. You're letting them eat. But when it comes to those games where you need some more firepower, like we saw against Ohio State last year, and the run game's kind of taking a second to get going, you can loosen up the box by having J.J. McCarthy step back there and let that live arm cook. And that's a very real thing for how Michigan's going to play these teams going forward. That's one of the reasons why you have the expectations that you have. And we'll talk about that in a second. But they have 84% of the production from a year ago back on offense. The game plan doesn't change, but the ability to game plan differently, I think, progresses with J.J. McCarthy. Like, J.J. McCarthy's already getting NFL draft buzz, which should tell you a lot about what they think of him at the professional level. This dude's got all the physical tools to run this offense however you want to run it. And you got a lot of weapons that are going to equip you to be versatile. Like, Colston Loveland, I think, is a guy that needs much more buzz going into this coming season. He's one of those guys that I think is going to be a matchup problem. Unique blend of size and speed that we're seeing more and more of at the tight end position. Like, all I'm saying, Michigan, the game plan is still the game plan. We're still going to punch you in the mouth until you say uncle. But if you do try and swing back, or maybe you do have some sort of answer for that, we're going to have answers of our own with this pass game. Because J.J. McCarthy being more comfortable in this offense, the weapons he has back to throw to, like, it all just screams to me flexibility that's available for the Michigan offense. And I don't know that you had that same kind of flexibility all the time last year as J.J. McCarthy was getting up to speed and, this offense was kind of figuring itself out. I think you have more flexibility available with you as he matures and as his offense matures, quite frankly. So there's flexibility there. It's a subtle but key difference, I think, that what you didn't necessarily have all the time last year. Michigan fans, make sure you're locked in right here. Make sure you're subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel, because we talk college football every single day. It's about that time, man. Less than 100 days away. We want you a part of this. I put out something on my socials at JD Piquel on Twitter and on Instagram. I asked, listen, where are you listening from? How are you listening? And we had a lot of y'all answer in elite fashion. Like, a lot of the Michigan fans were getting at us and telling us how and where they listened. Thank you for that. Keep them coming. A lot of fun to read those. It's a lot of fun to hear where y'all are at in the community. So thank you for that. Other thing that got to be talked about when it comes to Michigan, how about the way that people talk about your football team? Michigan fans, you remember it clearly. You remember it so clearly. Leading up to that game against Ohio State, everybody was kind of just assuming Ohio State was going to be in the college football playoff and they were going to beat you, and maybe you'd find a back door into the college football playoff. But that wasn't the case, was it? That wasn't the case. That Ohio State game put a lot of us on notice, put a lot of people on notice. That's what Michigan's kind of been the last couple of years. Yeah, that's great. You won the Big Ten in 2021, but C.J. Stroud's back in 2022 for Ohio State. Well, that's not the case this coming season. When I say it's not the case, I mean that's not the case for the people that watch Michigan. this coming year. The college football public, Michigan's not sneaking up on anybody. And I talked to Chris Ballas of the Wolverine, our Michigan on 3 site, and just kind of got his opinion on this. And he said, listen, the edge is still there. The edge is still very much there for Michigan. Because my question was, well, when you are the underdog for so long and the role switches to where you're not the underdog anymore, does that change the internal temperature at Michigan? And we got to talking more and more. That conversation's on the On 3 Roundtable YouTube channel, so subscribe to that if you haven't already and check that out. But I think the point itself is interesting. Michigan's been the top dog in their mind for a long time. Have they played the underdog role? Sure. But Michigan, when they beat Ohio State in Columbus last year, I was on hand. I was right there watching the celebration. They knew what people thought about them on the outside looking in, but that didn't get anywhere near the Michigan locker room. They knew who they were. They were always that big dog. To be fair, they were the defending Big Ten champions going into that game. And they played like it. They carried themselves like it. There was a upset feel to it, maybe for people in Columbus and for some of us watching that game, but there was no upset feel for anybody in Michigan. I remember I was standing on the field watching Michigan players celebrate after they had took the flag to midfield, and they were taking pictures, and one player was yelling, "Where's the upset at? Where's that upset at?" And I just remember clear as day thinking, that they are exactly who they believed they were, and they proved it to everybody else. And so I think going into this coming season, the difference is how this team is viewed externally, that now they're the top dog. But the encouraging thing for the Michigan faithful should be, listen, this team already thought they were the top dog, and they just went out and proved it last year. So, yeah, you're going to hear a lot of chatter about they're the front runner, they're leading the pack, and that's true. But I don't think that psyche really changes with Jim Harbaugh running the show. The last thing that has to be talked about when it comes to the differences for Michigan going into this year, it's the expectations. And maybe the expectations aren't changing internally, but I think they got to be talked about, because we so frequently for the last couple of years before that game in 2021 where you beat Ohio State in Ann Arbor, we talked about, man, if they could just beat Ohio State, if they could just win the Big Ten. I think probably some people in Ann Arbor thought that way too. If we could just beat Ohio State and get over that hump, that would be good enough. Well, now it's not good enough. It's expected. That's the price of admission now in Ann Arbor. The expectation, the goal, the prize is win a national title, like we talked about at the top of this video. That is the goal. National championship or bust. That is the goal. And that is the difference with how you're viewing this team and how you're assessing success on the outside. Yeah, but I guarantee you on the inside too. I mean, Blake Corum grabbed the mic at a basketball game and said, "We're coming for a national title." I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to that effect. That is what is on everybody's mind. J.J. McCarthy was fired up after the college football playoff loss to TCU. You could see the emotion, and it wasn't just J.J. McCarthy. It was across the board. Like, the mission is very, very clear. The happy mission is very, very clear. Bring home a national title to Ann Arbor. Anything else is unacceptable and is not good enough. And that is an exciting place to be, because you have earned that kind of expectation. You have earned that kind of pressure that people are putting on you, but that you're putting on yourself. You don't just sort of stroll into a year and say we're going to win a national title and not have anything to show for it leading up to it. You've built to this if you're Michigan, and you got a lot of pieces back. You're top 5 in returning production across the board. This is the year for Michigan to bring home the hardware that they really want. So I'm excited to watch it, but the offensive flexibility is going to contribute to it. The external feel around Michigan is going to be different. Never changed internally. They're after a national title this year. That's how you're judging success. I can't wait to watch it. Michigan faithful, we want you a part of this. Make sure you're subscribed. We're talking college football every single day right here on the On3 YouTube channel. Now, key note, we are live on Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Eastern, and on Thursdays, 11 a.m. Eastern. So hit the bell on this channel so you know when we go live. We want to hear from you all in the live chat. It's a real good time and just a great way for us to interact and have some time as a community. All right, so we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.